decision day. We're going to talk about Grayscale, the SEC. A decision is looming. What is going to happen and what is that going to mean for the crypto and Bitcoin industry? We're going to discuss that and much, much more on today's episode of Sin City Crypto Live. My name is David. I'll be one of your co-hosts. And today, like every single day, we're coming at you live from our studio in Las Vegas, Nevada. Going to be a fun show today. Today's Friday. Although today is Friday the 13th. Rocco, do we have any spooky sounds? No. Anyways, I'm joined today by two of my favorite co-hosts. One being my boy, Big Rob in the studio. Rob, how you doing, man?
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, well, welcome to the Vegas party. We are the entertainment channel here. We have officially crowned ourselves as the leading source of entertainment in crypto sector. The other pretenders try to act like their show was fun and engaging.
It's not.
However, it's boring, and we're gonna just we're gonna take that crown. That's it. That's who we are. Also, is Bitcoin at 30,000?
I'm sleeping. Oh, sorry. What?
Bitcoin at 30,000?
No.
Stupid.
You know, we are joined today by Friday, the day of the Three Musketeers. Because Friday is the only day of the week.
Three Musketeers.
Where we have three hosts on the show. And that is our friend, Forrest from System Research. Forrest, how you doing?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I missed you, bro. It's been 2 days.
I know.
How you been, man? You making some money with trades? Anything exciting going on before we get into the content here?
It's trading a little.
Good.
Just pairs trade, just some small trades here and there, shorting some high emission alts, longing, some strong alts, but trying to stay pretty neutral in the market.
Cool. All right. Guys, before we get into any of the content, we'd like to give our thank yous to channel sponsors as they help pay the bills and keep the lights on. First up, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. They are our IT and networking partner. And also, they deal with cybersecurity as well. So if you run a business and you just don't have the time or the know-how to deal with networking, IT, cybersecurity, visit Cam Blue Wire or call Cam's Blue Wire Tech or visit bluewiretech.com. Also, big thank you to Radix, Radically Better DeFi, the top layer one DeFi in our space. So they're a sponsor of this channel as well. If you want to learn more about their project, their roadmap, the ecosystem, what dApps are building on it, you want to use their wallet, visit radixdlt.com. There is a link in the description of this video. Now, gentlemen, I went searching, and you know how deep I search for these funny videos and memes, but it's been a rough one on Twitter because not a lot of funny stuff popping up. But I have a couple, and so here's the first one. Rocco, it's time. That's pretty mid, yeah? Anyways, kangaroos are just deer who went to prison. Kangaroos are very intriguing, right? Like they stand up, they flex their muscles, they like box, right? You've seen those videos where they box with people.
If you box a kangaroo, something wrong with you, bro. No, I watched the video on that, and literally this kangaroo sitting there just like no hands up, right? The kangaroo sitting there with gloves.
Dude squares up.
Grown ass man just like bow, bow, just punching a kangaroo in the face, and the kangaroo's not moving. He's just eating it, and I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable.
But they look like
this.
They want to fight, you know?
Sure. Like, here's the thing: if you're gonna make kangaroos box, make them box each other, right? A human versus a kangaroo, I feel like it's just not right, man.
Well, there was a video of one guy who was boxing the kangaroo because the kangaroo was chasing after his dog. So he was protecting his dog, you know? What would you do if you came face to face with a kangaroo and he squared up like that, like this picture here?
Run. Yeah, I don't know.
You'd run?
Me?
Forrest would tackle him.
I'm running.
Nah, come on, man. The Granby roll,
if I have to fight him, I got to fight him, but I don't want to fight that thing. Reminds me of that movie. You guys remember the movie Kangaroo Jack?
Yeah.
That was a great movie. Great movie.
Speaking of movies,
Top
is there I posted this on our Twitter. What is one movie that you guys have watched more than 3 times? Name a movie you've watched more than 3 times. Here's a few of mine. Tropic Thunder, Nacho Libre. John Q, great movie. Denzel Washington. Godfather 1 and 2. 3 was kind of mid. Casino and Frozen, of course. Elsa and Anna, because obviously I have a daughter. So, anyways, Rob, is there a movie that you've watched multiple times?
At one point, I worked at CC's Pizza, and inside the restaurant, we had a TV where we played Shrek on loop. So I watched it 3 times a day.
No.
And then
Any movie you willingly watched more than 3 times?
I was
You look like a Notebook kind of guy. It's a good movie.
Friday. I watched Friday.
Friday was a good.
Friday. I've seen that probably a good 6-7 times.
I feel like
Really?
with Rambo.
What about you, Forrest? I feel like you're a gladiator.
I haven't seen Friday, but I just watched The Notebook for the first time like 2 weeks ago with my wife. Movie I've seen more than 3 times. The Prestige and Kangaroo Jack used to be my
Okay.
favorite movie.
Kangaroo-
It's
When
a
you
top-
watch
it's a
The
top
Notebook,
movie.
and you better be honest, did you cry?
Actually, I didn't, but
Mommy.
yeah.
Why?
That was a setup, bro. That was a setup. Guys, let us know in the chat.
If you cried during The Notebook, put a 1 in the chat. If you I didn't go there, put a 2 in the chat. Thank you.
I don't even remember that movie. But what are some movies that you guys have seen multiple times? I'm curious. Also, Forrest Gump. I've watched Forrest Gump a few times. That's a really good one, too. All right. Let's get into some of the news here. I found this video. Thank you, Neil Jacobs. On this day, 5 years ago, Jamie Dimon, arm sling and all, said, if you're stupid enough to buy Bitcoin, you'll pay the price. Well, we now know what JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon and BlackRock and what everyone is saying about Bitcoin. But just 5 years ago, look how far we've come, guys.
Bitcoin hit a new high today. It just
I could care less what Bitcoin trades for, how it trades, why it trades, who trades it. If you're stupid enough to buy it, you'll pay the price for it one day. I've also told people that it can trade at $100,000 before it trades to zero. So tulip bulbs traded for $75,000 once, something like that. The only value of a Bitcoin is what the other guy will pay for it. And I think, honestly, I think there's a good chance that Bitcoin, a lot of the buyers out there are up there jazzing up every day so that maybe you'll buy it too and take them out.
It's called an open
And
market.
I quite mean that, by the way. You know, these people are very good at manipulating the press these days and getting news
So
out.
I'm trying to give, okay, so Jamie Dimon is a smart guy. He's not a dumb guy, right? I'm just kind of giving the benefit of the doubt. You know, his arm's in a sling. He probably is on some like pain medication. We know how that tends to scramble your brain sometimes. You think he was under the influence and maybe
He literally described an open market, a commodity sold in an open market, right? Well, it just depends on what the other guy will pay for it. But is that any different than gold?
is that any different than shares of a company? What people value it, whether you value it at 100 billion, but the investor's like, yeah, I value this at $10.
But a true commodity. Well, here's the valuation of company. You know, you can have profit and loss statements and things can, companies can go under. But in a true commodity, it's what the market's willing to pay for it. And so I don't know why he finds it so difficult to wrap his head around. I don't know where people to get the price. It's just what the next person's willing to pay. Like, well, duh. Have you bought gold before?
Justin, how the markets work?
Gold is not the same price it was 10 years ago. It's what people are.
Are you, Robin,
Actually, I think it is pretty close.
Are you still on palladium as a good hedge against inflation?
I'm actually on nickel. They're using nickel in batteries right now for the electric cars. So,
Guys, get
most
the-
people are talking about
Get the alpha on the
lithium.
precious metals here.
But don't forget about your nickels. Forget the dimes and the quarters. Just stack them nickels, baby.
It's like the nickels. Also, Tompi said, never heard of the Notebook. Well, let's start with it's one word. Actually, not 2 words. Anyways, let's continue to hear what Mr. Diamond had to say.
So every day, you have CNBC, nonstop Bitcoin. Who cares about Bitcoin? I mean, the world's economy is so big. We move, JP Morgan alone, these companies, $6 trillion. We move all this money. And Bitcoin in total is all these currencies are $50 billion, maybe $1 billion trades a day.
Where are we now? I believe Bitcoin has moved more money than Visa has. The number's like 14.6 trillion versus 14.1 trillion for Visa. Guys, this is Exhibit A. They all come around eventually, whether by choice or whether because they just have to. Forrest, what are your thoughts here? Anything you want to add? You kind of agree that eventually when you have something that's sort of inevitable, right? where it's not going away. You know, people try to fight it and shut it down and laugh at it, and eventually people just are going to have to come around to it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't blame him here. I mean, he's like the CEO of JP Morgan. Like, I get where he's coming from. When Bitcoin's at $50 billion, it's inconsequential to him. Like, the amount of money they move every single day in different currencies and different assets. And for them to even consider Bitcoin at a $50 billion market cap is kind of wild. So I get where he's coming from, but now that it has proven itself as a unique asset class and is at $500 billion, I think they're forced to actually consider with these ETFs potentially going through. Now it's not only are they kind of forced to pay attention to it, but it actually makes sense financially for them to pay attention to it. Sure, they could have bought it at $50 billion and they could have been more open-minded to it. But for a company like JP Morgan, getting involved with something when it's only $50 billion, I think you'd probably have a lot of investors get really, really upset, or a lot of people involved with JP Morgan and executives get really, really upset if he's giving Bitcoin any attention when it's that small. But we are seeing Bitcoin climb the ranks. So now they have to pay attention to it. So, you know, it does make him look really bad in hindsight, but I do get where he's coming from. And they're dealing with so much money that an asset at a $50 billion market cap to them is just, it's inconsequential. So I get it.
First thing that I think about is how much money has that fool made since he made this video? How much money has this company made? How much? And so it's not like he missed the Bitcoin boat and company went under and he hedged it in and out. And he went all in on the S&P 500, which ended up making his company go bankrupt. You know what I mean? Like, obviously,
he went all in on a bag of rocks. Thank you, Crick Cats, for that.
So, yeah, no, I tend to agree. I think that, you know,
but we can all agree that Bitcoin is no longer inconsequential, right? Right. Even if it's $500 billion asset, which pales in comparison to, you know, you look at the rest of the capital markets and liquidity and all that.
Well,
we can all agree that
the amount of the percentage fees that are going to be attributed to the ETFs alone are going to be a massive payday for the issuers of the ETF. I'm not sure what they're going to be set at, whether it's 1% or 2%, maybe something crazy as 3%. I don't know. But I mean, we see how much money Grayscale has made. Speaking of Grayscale,
we got news?
No.
Oh.
Well, hopefully we will. In case you guys didn't know, the Grayscale and SEC decision is supposed to come in today. So we got our fingers crossed that this will happen during the show.
Let's do a poll. Do a poll.
Yeah.
Well, what do people think?
And so just to get you guys caught up, if you're out of the loop, the SEC was required by the courts to make a decision with the Grayscale converting their Bitcoin to an ETF. And today is the deadline. Now, there is a caveat here. Instead of making a straight decision, they can also appeal. However, their appeal needs to be they have to have a new reason for it. So their original reason, the judge dismissed it, said that's not a viable reason to deny the ETF. So make a decision, and you can't use that as an excuse. So they could appeal and have something different. But we are kind of on pins and needles, ladies and gentlemen. Will we get an ATF passed today? Today could be D-Day.
That's why I might be.
Today could be Friday the 13th, the Three Musketeers Day, as David likes to say, and also the ETF Proclamation Day.
Rocco, why don't you throw yourself in the feet here real quick?
Yeah. Four Musketeers?
The Three Musketeers, right? Larry, Curly, and Moe. Who is who? Which one's Robin?
Larry, Curly, and Moe. That's not the Musketeers. That's the Three Stooges.
Oh, that's the Three Stooges. Anyways, never mind. Rocco, take yourself out of the video camera there. Gentlemen, real quick, just found this surfing the web. You guys ever wonder where Ethereum?
You still surf the web?
He's watching.
Guys,
just wait one damn second.
Three Stooges surfing the web. What are you gonna page me next? What are you doing, bro?
Hey,
how old are you, man?
It's only 66,000 years old.
Have you
He's
ever?
like, there was this Three Stooges. It was a black and white movie.
Four score
There was a
seven.
guy with a hat, and he would hit him with a hammer.
Robin,
and then
shut up
he'd
if I
pop up
feed you a
and-
roast beef sandwich.
and then
Listen to me.
The Three
favorite-
Musketeers,
his favorite
greatest
movies.
movie of all time. I've seen it 3 times last week.
His favorite movie is Jurassic Park.
Anyways, guys, have you ever wondered
The
where?
Great Gatsby, the book,
God,
not the
okay,
movie.
okay,
not
we
the
got it.
movie, the book.
Okay,
The book.
Okay, yeah. Good job. You guys ever wonder? You know, Rob, maybe you should take an extra day off. I don't know. Yeah. You guys ever wonder where Ethereum got the, where they got the logo from? What inspired them? Well, we have an answer.
That's funny.
That was a good one.
All right. Anyways, let's move on here. So here's what we have. And Forrest, if I can ask you to pull up an oil chart. Why are we showing you this? Well, for many reasons. One, oil has a indirect effect on prices of everything and inflation, because if oil and gasoline get more expensive, then all your goods and services, or not services, all your goods that get shipped around the world, shipped around the country, they also get more expensive, right? Because transportation gets expensive. Crude oil is now up 6.5% from their low today and nearing $90 a barrel. This is from the Kobe AC letter. We also had the Amman, I'm not sure if it's called the Amman, or the leader of Qatar, come out and say, with what is going on in Israel right now, that if some things don't get fixed or changed, they're going to stop, natural gas, right? Stop the pipeline feeding natural gas. And so we have another potential catastrophe coming down as far as energy sector and oil prices. So, Forrest, what does an oil chart look like? And are you still, is oil still part of your hedging kind of bet or hedging strategy you have with everything going on?
Yeah. We'll take a look at the oil chart here. I'm sharing my screen, and yeah, I mean, I think hedging with commodities like oil and obviously other commodities like cattle and orange juice have done extremely well, and we potentially see commodities continue this explosion upwards as prices increase and inflation proves to be a little bit sticky. So on the bottom here, I just have the S&P 500. Let's put that aside for just a second. Up top here, we have our COVID crash where oil futures actually went negative off the charts to the downside. You could get paid for taking in oil shipments. Then we had this rebound as the economy opened back up, and this was what is known as an accumulation funnel, a very bullish pattern that proved to shove us into a blow off top. Now, as oil prices got really expensive, you can see the toll that it took on companies and the economy, along with other things, other variables and things happening like the Fed starting to tighten. But you see, once you get to these really elevated oil prices, you start to see the S&P 500 correct and come down. Right. And then you have a lagged effect where oil prices, right, come down and things are much more manageable. Inflation starts coming down. Oil is a great indicator for inflation, and you start to see the economy recover a little bit. But now we start to see oil once again enter an uptrend, and along with oil entering that uptrend, we're starting to see the S&P 500 here correct. So there is a bit of a relationship here. Oil usually is a leader in terms of leading inflation and potentially projecting crashes in the economy due to the strain that this puts on a lot of companies and a lot of consumers, right? So what I've got highlighted over here is October 2022's price action for oil, where we were in this range between $83 and roughly $93, right? So currently we are in the month of October, and we've been seeing price action here in October around the same levels, maybe a little bit lower after we kind of peaked here in September. Now, the reason I've marked out October is because this is actually really important for year over year CPI data that comes in, right? Because we measure CPI and we measure inflation year over year. A lot of times we also measure it month over month, but a lot of the measurements come in year over year, and we want oil to not be higher higher now than it was a year ago, because then we have positive inflation, right? What we want is oil prices to get stuffed back down into this range, and maybe even this range between 66 and 74, and stabilize here. So we have very low, if any, inflation in oil prices, and that helps bring the inflation of all goods and services down, in all categories down, because oil kind of penetrates and permeates and is involved in a lot of those other categories. And we know the Fed is trying to fight inflation. No matter what you do to interest rates, and no matter what else, what the Fed does, it's really difficult to battle inflation if it's driven by high energy prices that are a little less related to interest rates and more related to the supply of oil in the world, right?
Bingo.
So yeah, the last thing I'll say is we have finally come back down, and we were testing the top of this range here around $83. But then obviously, you can see where war broke out in the Middle East and kind of put in a bottom here, and we're heading back up. Obviously, today's news with Qatar threatening to shut down or create an oil or gas shortage worldwide if their demands are not met, then that's obviously a reason for the price going up. But we still want, if we want the economy to recover and do well, we want to see this back test fail, and we want to see oil prices regulate down towards the $65 to $80 region, so it's flat year over year and much more stable. And in that note, in terms of stability makes it easier for companies to project their needs and buy oil without their costs rising. Right now, what a lot of companies are having to do is hedge with oil futures, because they'd rather buy it at $87 today than potentially have to pay $110 if Qatar creates an oil shortage. So we're seeing a lot of hedging going on by a lot of institutions here, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, if you guys are wondering, what is our president here in the U.S. doing to help alleviate? Don't worry, guys. He is fighting all the junk fees Ticketmaster is charging you. Now, Rob.
So do I need to go get some gas before it's too late?
You need to go yell at some of these people watching because they ain't hit the like button.
Well, speaking of like button, yeah, what's going on, guys? Ladies, gentlemen. Anyways, let's hit that like button. This is a visual cue. We got 176 people watching and 80 likes, less than a 49% ratio. I didn't want to say 50%. So do us a favor. Also, if you are new here, say hello so we can drop that hola back at you. We got Nicole Menace, All Set, Josh Tag, Teresa, Eric Wallen, Pete, Sugar Shane, Michael Williams, Nicholas, 86, Fire Up, Shmeu2, Remington P, Benjamin Line, 8888, and then also Paul D. So to all of you, hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto. Let's we're gonna open the club. We get this like ratio up to 170.
Rob,
that's pretty far away from where we need to be. Also, Charles P 360 came in at the last second to say hola.
So Rob, I was kind of hoping, with all the downtime you had, you might have worked on your pronunciation of names a little bit. Obviously, you did
I'm
not.
still worried about maybe getting some gas, man. I don't know, man. I'm freaking out. Actually, I have a visual. This is the line at Costco gas pumps right now. So
those are Teslas. That's crazy though, right?
Yeah.
All those Teslas,
dude.
It's crazy how fast Tesla is just dropping the price of their cars. I mean, it's like what was it like? It was like 80 grand for a Model Y or something. Now it's down to like 50 or something. But it's
that's the price of doing business. As you scale and as you get more experience building something, prices are just going to naturally go down. Cars in general were very expensive when they first came out. I mean, if you take just a traditional car compared to the household income, it was like a luxury, right? Now it's affordable. Every family can have a car. It's no different.
Can we get
different with
Can we get a round of applause for Elon Musk?
Mm.
Can we also get a round of applause maybe for Gary Gensler, as we have this from the Securities and Exchange Commission today? The commission adopted a rule to increase transparency and efficiency in a currently opaque securities lending market, closing data gaps by providing market participants with timely access to pricing and other material information about securities lending transactions. We also had a new rule come in where if
this sounds like the guy that like cheated on his wife a bunch of times. He's like, babe, I'm gonna be more honest and open with you. You can look through my phone anytime you want, if
Changes his phone
as long as I'm in the room. And
we also had a new rule that anyone that shorts the market or puts a short position has to let everyone know within 15 minutes of putting that position in. We also had this. I'll kind of couple with that as well. All the talk about the how Congress people, politicians should not be able to trade or have any stock investments. So another congressman has traded stocks before the start of the Middle East conflict, stocks that directly benefit from war. This person is Kevin Hearn, who bought Raytheon, which is a weapons manufacturer, last month. He also bought 4 energy stocks. Those ones listed there. Any
that
thoughts?
is convenient.
Very
right?
convenient. And he's not the only one. There's plenty of them. Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics. What's the big one? Lockheed Martin. These are all stocks, defense stocks, military stocks, that anytime there's conflict, anytime there's excess military spending, these stocks push up because people expect, revenue to grow as the countries need more weapon supplies. I'll start with you first, Rob. Any comment on either one of this, the SEC one, and or here with this congressperson?
First of all, SEC, do you believe them? Do you think they're going to be more transparent, more forthcoming, and more willing to work with the companies that they regulate?
Of course, man.
And discuss their policies
Gotta give Gary the
with
benefit of the doubt.
Congress and
gotta
maybe
give-
have an open communication.
Of course.
Because right now it's not that. No, far from it. You can't even get an answer when he's testifying. When Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, is testifying and is asked a simple question:
Hey, he
is
said
that a
Bitcoin is a
security?
commodity. He
And-
said Bitcoin is a commodity.
He didn't say it was a commodity. He said it's not a security.
Which, what else is it going to be then?
It's
Commodity.
yeah.
Thank you.
But that's the whole point. The dude can't even go out there. He's got such a negative connotation when it comes to crypto that he can't even say, you know what? In my professional opinion, it is commodity. Why can't he do that?
Because his
CFTC
opinions do not represent the Securities and Exchange Commission. His opinions are his own.
And the branch of government that determines if something's a commodity, the CFTC, has openly and for years now said that Bitcoin is in fact a commodity. So it's not just his personal opinion. He can sit here and say, hey, the other branch of government says it's a commodity. So yes, it's not a security. It's obviously a commodity. I don't understand why he can't do that.
Forrest, any thoughts from your end here, my friend?
Yeah. So the one on the guy that's the Hearn guy who's buying stock. This one's intriguing because I'd like to know like when he bought that stock, and the reason being is because this was supposedly a surprise attack by a terrorist organization. So if he bought before the surprise attack, the implications there is that it's either a coincidence or the more kind of serious implication is like that he knew it was coming, which is terrible to even consider. If he bought these stocks on Monday when the markets opened and obviously the conflict had already happened, I personally I think that's fairly logical and defensible. It doesn't necessarily constitute insider trading. I mean, I think a lot of people were making that trade judge on Monday morning, judging by the performance of those stocks. So yeah, I mean, this one I'm not so sure about, but I do think that they should not be able to insider trade. I think they should have to disclose all their positions immediately. I like the idea of having to disclose short positions, but also like if trading moved to a blockchain, like if the New York Stock Exchange moved to a blockchain based solution, and all of these companies' wallets and politicians' wallets were publicly disclosed. Making any trade would automatically, essentially, disclose their position publicly on the blockchain. You could track their wallets, and I think that's just another reason for blockchain technology being adopted. It could kind of solve this problem. You wouldn't have to trust them to disclose within 15 minutes. It would just automatically be transparent on the blockchain.
Amen to that. That's a really good point. There's a lot of things. Rob always says. Don't try to put everything in blockchain, but there are some things blockchain does.
Just don't trade. if you make policy that affects the stock market prices, just if you're in a policy making position, you shouldn't just be allowed to trade
At all?
Period.
What about it? Like if
It doesn't matter.
Like a
Here's the
retirement
thing.
fund.
If
What
you
about a retirement fund?
if you play basketball, you're an NBA player, you shouldn't be allowed to bet on NBA games. If you're a referee for the NFL, you shouldn't be allowed to bet on NFL games. This is a no-brainer. Nobody even argues with this, right? Like there's nobody that's standing up and be like, well, you know what, man, he was sports betting before he got the referee job. So, I mean, he's like, let him keep doing it, bro. Like, it's a dumb ass argument, man. Like, why on earth is the argument like, well, he was buying stocks well before he got into his position he was in. So we're just going to let him, no! I don't understand. Like, it's so normalized that people don't even bring up this idiotic fact that could be a problem, could be a conflict of interest. And even in this situation where somebody just nonchalantly bought some stock and for war in the war segment, where you have the defense contracts going to Raytheon and all. Anyways, even if he had absolutely no idea, it's still just a bad look. It's still a bad look. In the same way that if you officiated that NFL game perfectly fine, but there was a penalty at the very end to determine the game, but you're like, hey, man, I just put in a real bet, man. I was on the other side of the field. I had nothing to do with this. Like, it's still a bad look.
Yeah. You guys agree with Robin?
Yep.
You guys... We know you agree with yourself.
Okay, for sure.
The chat. Do you guys agree with Robin? If you are an elected official, you should not be allowed to trade or invest in the stock market. Put a 1 for yes. You should not be allowed to. Put a 2 for no. As in you should be allowed to. So you should be allowed to. You should not be allowed to. Let us know what you think. Let's get into the markets. Robin, Bitcoin is not at 30K, but where is it?
Bitcoin at $26,761. Kind of that same zone it's been at today, also yesterday, and the day before, but far off of where we were earlier this week.
We need a new pattern, man.
Yeah, I don't have anything here. Now, you know who is pretty good at reading patterns?
Who's that?
Is Forrest.
Damn.
So, not too much on my end as far as looking at the prices here or calling patterns, but Forrest, are the Bitcoin charts telling you something that we're not seeing?
And also, Forrest, before you get into the chart, I just want to share this headline really, really quick. So this is from CoinDesk. It says, Bitcoin spot ETF's approval is partially priced in. Nope. Coinbase executive says, Robin says no. I also say no. I actually don't even think it's possible, right? What are your thoughts, Forrest? And then let's go into a Bitcoin chart.
Okay, I'll go back to my face here. So do I think spotty Bitcoin ETFs are partially priced in? Yes, I do, because we saw as soon as BlackRock announced that they were pushing for a BlackRock ETF, we saw Bitcoin's price, or once they filed for a Bitcoin ETF, we saw prices push upwards on speculation. So yes, I do think they are partially priced in. Do I think that the structural flows of these ETFs going live and the Bitcoin being purchased therein and having to be backed one-to-one will continue to push the price up further? Yeah, to some degree, yes. I'm not in the camp that this is going to instantly send Bitcoin to $200,000 as soon as the Bitcoin ETF goes live. I think there's, it'll be positive for the price action, but I don't think it's like the thing that is going to make everybody 5x overnight and rich overnight just buying before the Bitcoin ETF. I think these things will take time to play out, and you'll see flows and demand into these ETFs. Kind of be spread out over time. You might get a big push at first, but over time we'll see them be a net positive in my belief. Okay, so looking at the Bitcoin chart here, we have two clusters of support and resistance. You can kind of see this very, very sloppy range that we've been developing here. So we've got this 26K level that's been very, very important thus far. 26K, it's joked for the last month or two that this is where the Bitcoin price algorithm is dialed to, because we've spent so much time trading at $26,000. 25K down here is a big price bias level. It's also the bottom of our range and the top of our prior range, right? So that's a very key level to continue to hold. Right now, we are simply chopping, and I say simply chopping. I mean, we can move in any single direction here. We've broken a trend line. We talked about that on, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, it was actually on Wednesday, the day we started breaking this trend line. We talked about that being, a very likely signal that we would go lower and head down to 26.5. We've actually front run 26.5 by just a tiny bit, but this is where we have a lot of volume coming in here and a lot of potential for Bitcoin's price to drop down and try to test support down there. If we move into the hourly a little bit, I do want to draw attention to the kind of the hourly range that we're in right now. We've got, this kind of double top up here, double top down here. It looks like we may be trying to rotate back down to the bottom of the range. Well, I want to pay attention. I want to double click in here, and I want to pay attention to what RSI is doing here, because what our RSI is doing here, and I won't get into how RSI is calculated. Just think of it as the momentum between buyers and sellers, right? When RSI is going up, that means the buyers are starting to step in. And sometimes the buyers have to step in and bid, and then you get a big catch up in price, right? Because price in liquidity and how markets move doesn't necessarily immediately reflect in price. Sometimes there's a lag. If a lot of buyers come in, but there's a ton of liquidity that they have to chop through to get to push the price up, you can kind of get a big explosion in price, right? Despite buyers and buy volume coming in significantly before then, right? So what RSI is doing right now is it's actually making higher lows, and it's challenging this 50 level. Once it crosses and holds above this 50 level, that means that buyers are in control, right? So what I'm paying attention to is a potential flush. And what we probably want to zoom out to maybe the 4 hour here. And what we want to pay attention to is, do we get a flush down to 26.5 and sweep these lows, sweep this double bottom, right? Maybe come down to 26.3 or so. And then if we recover this range, as a shorter term trade idea, if we recover this range after a flush and we somehow make a higher low in 4 hour RSI, or maybe the hourly, or you could even test the daily, but I'd say for this particular range, you want to look at the 4 hour or the hourly. If buyers continue to step in despite price dropping lower, then that is actually a bullish sign and could push us into a back test of this downtrend line, or a back test of this range here, which is up at around 27.5, 27.7. Now, I do think, because no news in the case of today with the Bitcoin, the Grayscale ETF decision or appeal decision, my understanding is no news is good news, because today's the last day that the SEC, I think they have until midnight to appeal that decision by the judge. Well, if time goes on throughout the day and we don't get any appeal from the SEC, that's good news in terms of there won't be an appeal of that particular decision, and the chances of getting a Bitcoin ETF drastically go up in terms of, there's less red tape and one less appeal to go through in order to get that. So I think as the night goes on, and once we kind of cross that threshold of midnight, we might actually see that. Then we might actually see a climb upwards. Now, if we do get an SEC appeal of the decision, that's the scenario where you might get a quick flush downwards, and then buyers step in and send it to the top of the range anyway, despite the appeal from the SEC.
Awesome. And we're going to get into that here in a second. But I do want to go over some of the rest of the market, some of the altcoins and what they're doing. So on Crypto Bubbles, we have a lot in the green today. Thorchain is up 8.7%. Loom, which I am not familiar with, Loom Network. That looks like it just cracked the top 10 or top 100 at number 98. That is up 7.2%. MakerDAO is up 4%. Curve, Lido, Crow, and Clayton Network are up, and the two biggest losers, Rocket Pool down 7.8%, and Mantle, that is down 5.7%. If we zoom out over the hour to see kind of more on a micro level, kind of flat, and then over the last week, this Loom, maybe we should look into Loom. I should be looming in a Loom. And then also Web3 MCT said big time Big Time did get listed on Coinbase. We know, I believe Rob did a review on Big Time, right? Or you did a video on it. This is a while ago.
Yeah, this is a while ago.
So pretty big when you get a listing on Coinbase, as it is the largest exchange in the United States. And then moving on, guys, obviously the big topic of the day, we are still awaiting the official news on whether Gary Gensler and the SEC are going to appeal the judge's decision in favor of Grayscale.
Are we not going to address the elephant in the room here?
The teeth?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Regulatory Body, SEC, is approaching the deadline for announcing its decision on whether it will approve Grayscale to convert its GBTC into a Bitcoin spot ETF. If the result is positive, this will be the first ever Bitcoin spot ETF launched in the U.S. Moving on, the victory of Grayscale over the SEC, as many believe, drove Grayscale and its CEO, Michael Sonnenschein, to make a similar move regarding their Ethereum trust. So they filed to make their Ethereum trust an Ethereum spot ETF as well. Earlier this year, Grayscale also submitted a filing. Oh, I just read that. According to a tweet published by Fox Business journalist and producer Eleanor Tourette, should the SEC fail to deliver their decision, then in a week from now, the case of Grayscale will be closed and the company's legal team can start working with SEC staff to get the process of approval rolling. Now, we have had people smarter than us come out, throw numbers out there.
Hell nah.
We've had Mark Yusko.
Nobody's smarter than me, bro.
Sure. We've had Mark Yusko on our show throw the number between $30 and $300 billion. We've seen numbers in the trillions thrown out there. I kind of agree with Forrester, and Rob, I'm curious to get your take. The longer we don't hear anything, the better it looks that right? Because look at the SEC flat out 20 days before they even had to say anything. They came out and say, yeah, we're delaying all the ETFs again.
Not surprising it comes down to the wire. I'll say that. I figured they probably would take as much time as possible. You can look at all of the extensions they've done with all the ETF applications before this as a measure of how they operate. They take as much time as possible, and then the delay last second. Now, in this particular situation, I was assuming that we would have woke up this morning and we would have had a decision.
Same.
And now the fact that the caveat is if they don't come out and make a decision, by default, it will become an ETF. As time keeps going by, you're like, whoa, well, I will be streaming tomorrow. If this ETF goes live, I'm just letting you know, we will be live tomorrow. And I don't even care if you're going to join me, David, but I will be live. I'll throw my cell phone. Something will happen. I'll come down to the studio. Anyways, this is a pretty big moment. The largest, let me put this in perspective. The largest Bitcoin wallet, period, is
Satoshi.
Let's see. The second largest, the largest active wallet is Grayscale. Yeah. I mean, they own them. You know, they are responsible or custody the most Bitcoin, and this is not traded on the open market. It's bought and sold through the Grayscale Trust, which has a premium. It's kind of confusing, and the price fluctuates as far as the what it's actually trading for. Gonna keep it simple, man. Buy and sell on the stock market at spot prices. And it's the biggest wallet, and you're going to convert all of that. All of that instantly turns into liquidity. Maybe not quite as liquid as an exchange, but essentially all of that Bitcoin turns into accessible liquidity that can move the market.
Wouldn't that
and that creates volatility, which creates potential for movement, and that is a bullish narrative. So the movement should go in the upward direction.
But Rob, isn't that a bad thing? Because if you have someone like BlackRock get the first dibs, right? They don't have 650,000 Bitcoin, which would mean they would have to go out and buy all the Bitcoin that flows into the ETF versus Grayscale, who already has it, or they have a float of 650,000.
Think about this. Maybe the SEC is taking all the time that it has because it knows it's going to pass this. It's going to convert the Grayscale Trust, right? Let's just pretend that the decision is already made.
I think it is already made.
Yeah, well, let's just say that the decision is made. That okay, fine, guys, you win. Grayscale, you can upgrade. Awesome. Let's just say that's the narrative. Do you understand how much work the SEC is doing behind the scenes? They got all these. They got the ARK Invest thing is supposed to go. You got Congress over here pressing the Gary Gensler and saying, "Hey, when you approve these ETFs, make sure that you do it in the order that they were originally submitted." This is Congress testifying, questioning Gary Gensler, demanding that, hey, when you will pass the Bitcoin ETF, let's not put favoritism for BlackRock. Now, they didn't specifically
They
list.
pretty much said that.
Yeah, but they pretty much did. And so now you find yourself in a situation. It's very interesting if Gary Gensler and the SEC is going to approve this ETF. How much crap do they got to put together at the last minute, right? How much things do they have to account for? Who is going to be approved first? How is this conversion going to work? Are they going to try to delay it in some way and say, hey, okay, sure, yes, you can convert to an ETF, but hold your horses. We got a lot of other stuff. Like, I don't know, man. And this is big news. The largest holder of Bitcoin will turn into liquidity. It is massive. It is massive. And could it kick off a bullish scenario where Bitcoin rallies to 45,000? Perhaps. Yeah, I do think that in some way, shape, or form, this is priced in, but the amount of money that is going to surge into this market off the ETFs going live, and remember, they're not going to just go live. It's not going to be just Grayscale getting approved with ETF. It's going to be a whole basket of them, man. It's going to be a flood.
What's interesting to me is if you look at Grayscale and how they make money on their trust, right? They charge and force, I think the number is 2%, correct? 2 or 2.5% that Grayscale makes.
Something like that. It's
the service
I thought
fee.
it was 1%, but if it's 2%,
it's definitely.
that's
I think it's definitely at least 2%.
Okay.
And Rob, if you want to check me,
I think it is 2.
it's 2 or 2.5. Someone can fact check me on it. But when they move away from the GBTC and go to a spot ETF, we already know BlackRock has come out and said we're looking at 0.65%. You know, people are going to be grasping at the potential liquidity once these spot ETFs come. So there's going to be a bidding war to drive down the price of the fee for the ETF. Grayscale knows this, and they are still pushing to convert from a trust that earns them 2 to 2.5% fees to a spot ETF that's going to only earn them like 0.5 to 0.75% in fees. So if that doesn't tell you the volume that we're going to see when a spot ETF gets approved, I don't know what will. Forrest, what are your thoughts?
So a lot of stuff there. So one thing that I want to draw to people's attention is like, if the SEC fails to appeal by midnight, my understanding is it doesn't necessarily mean that the ETF goes through.
Correct.
It then goes back to the judge, I believe, who then gives like a 30 to 45 day window for approval or denial. And the SEC can still actually deny they can come back with a different reason and deny it. Some of the ETF analysts at Bloomberg say that's extremely unlikely, but it's not exactly clear what the timeline for an approval would be. I think it goes back to the judge. So no news, I think, is good news today. But the other thing is, if this Grayscale trust, GBTC, gets converted into an ETF, that's bullish because it makes it extraordinarily likely that all the other Bitcoin spot ETFs get approved. But in the short term, it could create a lot of sell volume because there is a lot of people that were doing the carry trade, right? So, when Bitcoin was below $20,000, you could buy GPTC, you could buy Bitcoin or the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust at a 48% discount. So there's people who bought a Bitcoin effectively for $10,000, $15,000, right? And now that Bitcoin, that discount against the net asset value of this Grayscale trust has closed to only 16% of a discount. And if they actually get it converted to an ETF, it'll close to 0%. You have a lot of you have people. You have a Grayscale Bitcoin trust with over $15 billion, I believe, in it. It's like 600,000 plus Bitcoin, where a lot of people are in major profit on that carry trade. So I do think that you'll see a lot of volatility. You'll probably see a heavy mix of sellers immediately, right, that are saying, I bought this discount, I bought this Bitcoin discounted 40% from $20,000. Effectively, I'm in it for $12,000 per Bitcoin, and now Bitcoin's trading at 30. I'm going to lock in some profits. But then you also have the new demand coming in through the ETF. So I think Rob is right. I think you're going to see a lot of volatility in both directions. But one thing that we see as a bullish signal for Bitcoin in general is volume, right? Right now, we're in a very low volume period of time. And when there's low volume, no one's making money. The exchanges aren't making money. You want volume, and volume can create a bullish narrative. So totally agree with Rob there. I think any other specific points I didn't cover? I think you had a couple there.
No, just I just brought up the fact that, what does it mean for a company to give up 2% in their fees to go down to a quarter of that? They got to assume that the volume and the open interest is going to be massively, massively higher than what it is now with their GBTC.
Yeah. I don't think they have a choice. I think because the GBTC, if I'm not mistaken, it's not redeemable, right?
No.
So like the ETF would just destroy their volume. Everyone would go and trade the ETF, and nobody would trade GBTC. And that 2% is going to yield less than what an ETF likely would, and it's just better for the holders of GBTC. If they don't convert to an ETF, then that discount window or that discount's going to widen again, and it's going to trade at a massive discount. Which is not good for Bitcoin in general. So yeah, I think they really don't have a choice here. It's the ETF is what everybody wants and is best for all parties involved.
Okay.
All right. I do want to give a shout out to the chat. We got 233 people watching, 140 likes, and
138.
138. Well, I rounded up.
So nice of you.
Would like y'all to round up the like button. We will open up the club when we get to 170 people. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, hit the like button and find out. Also, I'm sure we got some new people here watching. In case you didn't know, say something in the chat. We'll give you some love right back at you. So we got Crypto, Tatted, Zach, Alexander M, Robert H, Hector A, Matt S, King G, Johnny B, Yowza, Doink Asaurus. And then we also got Stacks, WRX, Lisa A, Isaiah, Abudafati, and Red Elephant. Oh, to all of you. Hola! Welcome to Sin City Crypto.
Thank you for that, Robin. Appreciate it.
Yes.
I do want to. Yeah. Focus. This is an interesting one. VC firm managing partner Joel Monegro says Ethereum and Solana are Android and iOS of crypto.
Pretty sure it's Monegro.
Monegro, like Montenegro. Yeah. Monegro.
Thank you.
Joel Monegro, managing partner. I knew you couldn't keep your mouth shut. Joel Monegro.
Okay.
Monegro. Okay?
Yes.
Managing partner at Placeholder, a venture capital firm specializing in blockchain and crypto, offered a detailed analysis of Ethereum and Solana through the lens of Android and iOS. Interesting. Okay. He said Ethereum shares similarities with Android, the world's most widely used mobile operating system. He points out that Android's open and modular nature allows it to run on a wide range of devices from various manufacturers. In the same vein, Ethereum is becoming more of a platform for third-party networks, particularly Layer 2s. He also discusses the challenges that come with Ethereum's diverse ecosystem. He draws a parallel with Android, where developers have to consider multiple device specifications and versions of the operating system. He also mentions the user experience can become fragmented due to the lack of uniformity across networks and wallets. Then he goes on to compare Solana to iOS, which is Apple, which is known for its integrated and consistent user experience. Solana's unified network is faster and more cost-effective than Ethereum and many other EVM networks. This allows developers to concentrate on improving their applications without the concerns of transaction speed or gas costs. Is this a fair assessment? I'll start with you first, Robin. Is this a good analogy? Or would you replace Ethereum with X, or would you replace Solana with Y?
X and Y. I don't get it. No, we've used this analogy many a times, right? Where the layer ones are essentially the operating system. I don't know, man.
Is Solana the iOS? Would you replace it or should there be some other layer one? Should it be Cardano?
They've had a track record when it came to uptime, which seems to have been resolved, but is it been resolved, or is it just because the transaction volume is low and they're not minting a bunch of NFTs, or is it the issue fixed? That's a side note. And you also have the FTX issue where they're holding a lot of Solana tokens, tons of FUD there. But it doesn't discount the fact that the venture capital, that corporate America, the companies that are essentially building on these layer ones, it makes sense that venture capital company or venture capital chain would be something that people want to build on. To answer your question, I don't have an answer. I don't know. I'm being serious, man. I liken them to layer ones. I think that Ethereum is in the lead, and I don't even know if Ethereum is going to be the go-to, right? They're the front runner.
I mean, so are you saying that you don't think ETH is going to be?
I'm not saying it won't.
Number one?
I think it's most likely that Ethereum will evolve and be the go-to the go-to ecosystem that people build on and transact. But I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion. And so to sit here and say ETH is that, now on top of that, will Solana be number two? I don't know. You know what? I question everything. I question both Ethereum and Solana. I think it's still too early to tell. Yeah.
Forrest, what are your thoughts? Is this a good analogy? ETH, Android, the most widely used, but not user-friendly, and then Solana is just this like clean user face, low costs. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so you go a lot of different directions with this analogy, but I think it's completely fair. So like, Android being more modular, a little bit more clunky, same thing with Ethereum. Like one of the things that with a modular architecture like Ethereum has, and there's like hidden costs, and this is something that's not very heavily discussed, but when you get to a point of real scale, think about every single time, let's say you have Ethereum versus USDC. You have an LP pool in DeFi, people trading on a decentralized exchange, Ethereum between USDC on the Optimism network or on the Base network. Well, every time the price changes due to a large transaction or any transaction on that chain, that creates cascading transactions of arbitrage bots that have to go create transactions on Base, have to go and create transactions on Matic, have to go and create transactions on Arbitrum, right? Just to balance out and arbitrage out those pools and the price between that one asset pair. Now multiply that across a ton of different asset pairs, and every time a price changes on one of these layer two, one of these modular LL2s, it creates dozens of other transactions that have to be arbitraged and roll back up to the Ethereum L1, which creates these it creates an obstacle to scalability and a clunkier user interface. And then you have these big fee market spikes, right? Even on Optimism, I've been on Optimism before and paid over $1 transaction fee. When you're talking about specific use cases such as payment processing, and somebody potentially goes in and wants to has USDC in their wallet, and one day USDC is accepted at a grocery store, they want to buy a pack of gum for $2, they don't want to pay $1 transaction fee, right? Where Solana comes in, you have a much different structure that doesn't fragment liquidity and create these hangups where your transaction times can lag or your fees get spiked, right? It's got a local fee market where there's if you have a heavy throughput for one particular use case, like a big NFT mint, it doesn't slow down the rest of the network like it does on Ethereum. As you guys know, I'm super bullish on Solana. That is like my number one pick going into the next 2 years. I think it will continue to outperform the market. I think it might be due for a little bit of a correction here. We'll see. But in the long term, from a technology perspective, I think it is the best suited for most use cases when it comes to blockchain.
If you had to pick Solana or ETH, which one are you taking? You can only pick one.
Solana. I mean, that's reflective of my current portfolio. I don't own any ETH anymore, really. It's only Solana at this point.
Okay, Forrest. Rob, what about you? ETH or Solana? Pick one.
I'll go Ethereum.
Wow, did you actually just not push back and pick one without asking 17,000 questions? Proud of you, man.
No, in short, I think Ethereum is a safer play. I do think Solana has a lot of potential. The earlier comments I were making were just to preface why their token price is down and why some people aren't as bullish on Solana as they are on, say, Ethereum and Bitcoin. But I think they've been addressed. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think tons of upside. I like Solana. I've come around to Solana, but if I had to pick, I'd go Ethereum. I still think that the gains that you're going to get off Ethereum are going to be well worth it. I think there's a potential for a 10x in the next 5 years, and I'm happy with that without so much downside risk.
Yeah. We just got to see where the liquidity starts to flow, or if Chainlink succeeds in what they're trying to do with CCIP, then is it really going to matter where the liquidity is? Because all that liquidity is going to be accessible on Chainlink. It'll be interesting to see. We do want to give shout out to channel sponsors, Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you want to learn how they can help your business grow, visit bluewiretech.com. Also, big thank you to Radix, who also sponsors the channel. Radically Better DeFi. If you want to learn more about their ecosystem and use some of their products and services, visit radixdlt.com. Do yourselves a favor, guys. Go subscribe to Sistine Research on YouTube. That is Forrest's channel. He does live stream technical analysis. Also, if you want more insight into Forrest's investment thesis and some asymmetric, what do you? I'll let you kind of talk about it. Your research hub, but what is the purpose of it, and how does it help people?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't have time to do deep level research on any given thing, or at the very least, even if you do have time to spend a lot of time in crypto and you pay attention and you join streams like this and get yourself educated, there's a lot of different viewpoints out there, and it always helps to have another set of eyes on the market, right? Over the course of a year, I might, I'd be able to identify a few opportunities where there's asymmetric risk reward. We put some high risk plays in there. We put some investment research in there. And if nothing else, it just can distill an investment thesis down or instill an opportunity down to, a bite-sized chunk, like a one-pager, or, sometimes we'll post longer research reports, but just can kind of distill the idea down to a level that is not super technical and much more digestible, and makes you feel much better about making an investment decision. Of course, we don't give investment advice, but just provide research, right? And try to identify opportunities where there is good risk reward potential. And then we just share that directly to people's inboxes.
Yeah. And take it from someone who has access to it. It's not some BS research where people copy paste or throw some stuff in a ChatGPT. This is actual step-by-step, in-depth reasons. And so the product is amazing. If you guys want to support Forrest and you want to support us, there's an affiliate link in the description of this video. Also, I did finish the poll. Will the SEC officially appeal Grayscale? 58% of you said yes, they will appeal, and 41% no. Let's take a quick last check. Nothing yet, no news from the SEC, which, guys, in this case, just like your doctor says when you get blood work done, if you don't get a call, that's a good thing. So no news in this case should be looked at as good news.
I gotta use it at least once a day.
Anyways.
And doctor also says apple a day will tornado away.
I got you one for you too today.
Wow, is that for Robin? Wow, okay, Rocco. I thought we were connecting when he was gone, but I guess not. Guys, with that being said, Rocco.
What?
My tornadoes get crazier and all over the place as time goes on. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for an amazing week. We hope you had a great time. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday. Same place, same time. Until then, peace.
Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin, it's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger tornado close ya.